Are you a realtor who's looking for an easier, simplified way to farm for buyers? Stay with me. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, I'm Stan Shields, your Lumpy Mail Guy. Learn more about me at lumpymailguy.com. I'm going to share with you today a system that will allow you to farm an area pretty much on autopilot and deliver highly qualified leads. Now, there's a lot of different farming methods that are out there. A lot of people will use postcards, greeting cards, flyers, mailers, letters, so forth. And we're going to use some of those things, but we're going to make it so much easier for you to do them. The system that we're going to use solves a lot of the problems that typically go along with trying to farm a neighborhood, like inconsistency and it gets super expensive. We're going to make it super easy. It's going to be less expensive and mostly automated for you. And we have farming automations that are for sellers, for buyers, for FSBOs, for expired listings, and even some other areas as well. Now, today's video is really only going to look at farming for buyers. I did another video previously that actually focused on farming for sellers. So go back and check out that video if you want to see more about farming for sellers. Now you might ask, well, why a different video or why a different farming automation for buyer versus seller? Well, they're two very different animals, and your language to a seller is going to be different than your language to a buyer. So therefore, we're going to do that in two very separate automations so you can speak the language of the prospect that you're trying to attract. Now, of course, you know that if you farm for sellers and you get a seller, you potentially get to double dip because you get a seller who may also buy. You get both sides of that deal. That's the best of all worlds. And then, of course, FSBOs, they're just a completely different animal altogether. So let's talk about the steps to creating this buyer farm. The very first thing that we're going to do is introduce you as the agent of choice for your farm area. And we're going to do that by using some postcards. So let's take a look at those real quick. What you see on your screen is a PDF that you will also be able to download. What this shows you is a 3-drip automation that will introduce you to the farm area. So the very first card that goes out is going to be a card that just introduces you. Now, what really makes these cards work is that we're going to highlight the person we're going to have their first name on the card. The picture on the card is going to be something that they will recognize, either from their neighborhood, their community, something that stands out for them. And then you're going to introduce yourself down here. You're also going to have your photo on the back right here in one of these placeholders and a QR code that will allow us to have a call to action that will take the person to a page so that we can get them to do something, to take some kind of action. The second card that goes out is going to be you introducing yourself again, but we'll have a different picture. But again, we have their name that's bold and highlighted so that they see it. It's front and center. It calls them out. And then on the back, again, we're going to have your photo as well as a QR code and whatever the message is that you want to say. The third card in this introductory series is going to be a let's get coffee or tea. So now you're actually inviting them to meet you for coffee or tea. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. We're not going to dive into those details. Now, this is the very first step to starting your farm area so that you introduce yourself to people. You determine the frequency of when you want to send these cards. They're designed to go 7 days apart. So the first card goes out, then 7 days later, the second card would go 7 more days later, the third card would go. But you can stretch that out to 10 days. You might even stretch it out a little bit longer, but you determine the frequency as to when do those cards go out, and how do you introduce yourself to that farm area. The next set of cards that we're going to then send out is going to be our buyer GEO farm domination series. Now these again can be every 7 days, or you can stretch these out longer if you choose to. You could even make these every 30 days. It's entirely up to you what you do with them. But the first card we have queued up is going to be ready to own. We need to talk. So it's a ready to own card. So that's this first one. The second card is going to be a fire your landlord card. The third card is a tired of paying someone else's mortgage. Then you've got a stop wasting your cash on paying rent card. And then the fifth card in the series is one that's called It's Time to Fire Your Landlord. Now that gives you 5 cards that you can start off with sending. You can also create your own cards. If you don't like any of those, you can create your own cards. If you've got a graphic artist person, maybe you're good at graphic arts, you can do whatever you want with that. You can take these 5 cards and then you can simply recycle them and do them again, so that you've got 10 months or 10 mailings that's going to go with this series. You can just keep it going for as long as you want. Just depends on your budget and how often you want to connect and touch with people in the farm area. Now, once the cards are ready and all queued up to go, then we're going to run our final list of who we're going to actually send these cards to. And this is where the magic comes in. See, you can pick a radius around your address. You can pick a zip code. You can pick any random address and run a radius around it. You could pick a whole city for that matter. But then we're going to do some demographics that's going to help to refine that list so that it's a much more manageable size and gives us the best candidates possible. First of all, we're only going to look for people who are renters. Second of all, we're going for people who've been renting for at least 2 years or more. We want to see them with a great income. I start with $100,000 a year, and then I adjust it either up or down based on the numbers that I'm getting back, and then just decide where do I really want it to be. You have to decide what makes sense for you in your particular area. I also want someone who has a decent net worth. Now, that could be as low as $25,000 depending on your neighborhood or your area. But again, I start at 100,000 and then I adjust my numbers up or down based on the particular area that I'm looking at. And the most important factor that we're going to want to put in here is credit score. I want to talk to people who have at least a 650 credit score, but I start at 700 with a credit score, and then I will adjust that number up or down based on the results that I'm getting and the area that I'm working with. So you see, we can use all of this criteria and more. There's other criteria that we can use. We use all of it to really refine our list so that we're not mailing to just everybody in a neighborhood. We're mailing to truly the best prospects, the best candidates for purchasing a home in a particular area. The goal is for us to get to somewhere between 200, maybe 200, 300, anywhere up to 500 prospects so that we've got a solid list of solid people to work with. Now, this gives you a tool for doing the mailings and getting the mailings in front of people, but there's so many other things that you really want to do in terms of farming an area. And it could be things like holding certain events that bring people together in the community and helps them get to know who you are. It could be doing additional mailings, coffee chats, or something along those lines with people. But think about what else can you do that would help to bring people together in the community so that they start to recognize you as a community resource. See, we have some realtors using this system that have 10 farm areas going at one time. And those that build teams They not only have their farm areas going, but they're teaching the team, and they're building a team that has farm areas. And these are the guys that are just crushing it. Now we have similar automations for FSBOs, for expireds, and other areas too that realtors may be interested in. Now, how can you do all of this with as little effort as possible? Well, it's using the tool that we have available called Mailbox Power. Mailbox Power allows you to do this and so much more. Now, if you look in the description down below, you'll see that there are some links. There will be a link that will take you to a page where you can actually download these PDFs that I just showed you, as well as a report on direct mail and the impact and what's happening with direct mail today and how well it's working today. And if you use my link that's down below for Mailbox Power, you will also then have access to some freebies. We've got some automations that we have built for first-time homeowners that have pets and some other things. There's some other freebies that we've got available to you. We'll also show you how to make the system pay for itself, because it can do that. It can actually pay for itself and become really a revenue generator for your marketing budget. Now, if all of this is a little bit confusing, you're not sure if it makes sense for you or not, you can also click the link down below that will allow you to schedule a 30-minute demo or a 30-minute introduction call with me directly, so that you and I can talk specifically about you, about your business, and whether or not this makes sense for you. Okay, that's it for this video. So reach out to me if you need help or you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.